Hi, it's Joy and today I'm going to be watching Young Royals, Season 2, Episode 1. Thank you so much to the anonymous patron who sponsored this show. I am so excited for Season 2 of it. It's been a while since I saw Season 1. I made sure to watch a recap beforehand. I loved Season 1, so I do remember things, but if I forget any details, please have pity on me. I have brain fog and slight memory issues with my CFS, but I know I love the show. I'm stressed and excited to see where it goes in here, because it's probably not, I mean, it's definitely not going to be a smooth ride. A reminder that if you are watching this on YouTube, you can find these reactions unedited on my Patreon, thanks to my lovely anonymous patron, and let's go. Fuck off. His brother's room. His brother has a lot of pictures of himself in this room. Had, I should say. I know you miss him. I feel like he was the only one you could talk to and that understood you. Bless. He betrayed your family. Eric, was that his brother's name? I don't know. His brother would have been furious with August. I don't blame him. August didn't just make a oops silly me mistake. Oof. Maybe take the hint. I think you messaging him is making him angrier. He's very talented. Ooh. New love interest for someone? It's good for him to have friends. Okay, it's good to see him smiling. She's living for herself, and that makes me happy. I hate Sarah using someone betraying her brother to get what she wants. Oh hell no. Oh, I hate this. And like, hazing and initiations and things are not fun. I mean, she's having a good time. And there is no mean intent here, but oh, I don't like it. These things can get wrong quick. And even if it's alright with this group. You did. She's old enough to give it a go. Yeah, perhaps his whole life is putting on that smile, but what you did was unforgivable. You should be just keeping your head out of Wilhelm's way until you leave the school, and then staying away from him. So he got like an eating disorder, body dysmorphia. She set it on fire! Yes, Sarah. She takes things very literally. You want him to be the perfect prince and not live his own life. He doesn't need to talk to you to do that.
Hello.
Oh, it's not good to fixate on revenge, sweetheart. Sarah's doing okay, I think, though, sweetheart. She's living the life she wanted to live. I get why he's freaking out. And Sarah took it very literally to take it to a standstill. Is he gonna start being all, I'm the crown prince? Fuck. But you didn't say your it sounded like you were saying address me as crown prince, not address me as your royal highness. I guess it kind of means the same thing in English. I suppose you wouldn't really say address me as crown prince. But...
Kronprinsen måste förstå. Utmana mig. Säg åt mig vad jag ska göra. Se vad som händer.
He's being a dick. To August, I get it, but in general, I worry it's gonna like ripple out a little bit. And I know it's because he's spiraling. Yep. He worries about his sister. I think she's probably with the girls and okay. Even if her social standing in the school might not be so okay. The way everything fades out when they look at each other. You didn't need to panic and run.
tydligen klarat sin invigning. Fina traditioner som alltid.
Mm-hmm.
Hej. Jag klippt mig.
You did get a clip, man. Jealousy.
På Grindr förra. Ja, i våras tror jag det var. Men han verkar inte så intresserad av internet. Jag trodde inte det var så gammaldags. Eller ja, i och för sig, det är kanske hela er grej.
That is the monarchy's whole deal, yep.
Sånt spelar i din liga, någon av oss. Säg om du behöver hjälp att hitta någon som är. Du ringer mig och så löser det.
I mean, okay, so like, Ogress particularly like he didn't wash his hands and then he was touching his face. Just go wash your face, sweetheart, please. The beginning of what he just said, correct. One of the problems they have is that they are from two different worlds and they struggle to understand where the other one is coming from. The answer is not forget him and just pick someone from the aristocracy. The answer is pick someone that makes you happy and talk about the things you're going through. And maybe Simon will decide he doesn't want that because it comes with a lot of press and attention, whatever else. You can't avoid that. Oh, great. Do I get a say in this? Oh, Lord. No pressure, he's a student here. Fuck off. He's allowed to be upset with his mother. And all of this. He's not toxic. The situation is a little bit toxic. The situation Wilhelm's in. Things, I understand why they're being protective of their friend, because I would be the same. And I get why he's upset. He does need to take a slight step back and consider that the boy he likes is the crown prince of their country. And I would personally view that as a, yeah, the monarchy should be abolished, so unless you're going to work with me towards that, maybe we shouldn't date. I'm sorry, I really like you though. But if you do want to pursue this relationship, which, given Wilhelm seems to be a remarkably sweet child, given the fact that he's from the monarchy, obviously the pressures that you're in now, admittedly these are kids, they're like what, 16, so I'm not expecting them to have the most well-rounded understanding of everything, but it's just heartbreaking to see people sort of saying to Simon, oh, he's toxic, oh yeah, he's a dick, he fucked up, when like in terms of their relationship he did fuck up, but the reason behind it is all the pressure he's getting from his family, the lack of support he's getting from his family, the pressure on him as crown prince and everything, and I just kind of want someone to understand that and be there for him. At this point I'm off to fly to Sweden. Though I would also, once I'd comforted him, start being like, so, crown prince, how would you feel about monarchy abolition? Such a middle class sport. Though it's a little, I do not want anyone equating that to what August did, because rich kid gets kicked out of rich kid school, rich kid goes to different rich kid school, rich kid has perfect rich kid life at a different school. Person gets outed, person in the public eye gets outed to a tape so vulnerably, especially as a child. There's no link. It is the right thing to do, unfortunately. Yeah. I don't know if this is healthy, sweetheart. People that know him know that tape was them. Yeah, you can't. Just because you're here doesn't mean you can afford to be like them, unfortunately. It's why I still don't think being bullied at your local ordinary school, going to extraordinary elite super rich school, was the right answer. Don't tell me there's only one seat left. Surely someone would have wanted to sit next to the Crown Prince. Unless maybe he said no.
Hej.
Or they've all got their own friends, I suppose. I just thought there'd be at least one kid that's been instructed by their parents to be ruthlessly power hungry.
Goda.
He's using his crown. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's also very obnoxious. He is using all of his crown prince power, and
Som har bestämt det.
I'm going to be quite honest with you, it's very obnoxious, but at the same time, he's doing it to get at August, and it's quite beautiful. But I'm just breaking my heart because I feel like he's going to lose himself in this like vengeance quest a little bit, and he's not been this obnoxious crown prince. And when I say it's obnoxious, it's like if you were an outsider unaware of the context, you would be like, brat. Like, you know, knowing what's going through his head, it's just like, it's part both like, yeah, you get him, and then it's also like, but don't lose yourself to this, stay you.
Ta serva treorna och istället så får alla ta mat när de vill. Begrips.
Thing is, at some point, he's gonna stop trying to get his favor. Like, he's gonna stop agreeing and backing down every time. But I guess he feels like he can't. It's so awful because he's not like them, but that was the one time he was like them. But at the same time, it was a rich boy, right? Unless I'm completely mistaken about the kid that got framed. But no, because they just said they didn't want to rescue. Like, I don't feel as bad about, you know, the only kid getting punished for the drugs being the scholarship student would have sucked because they all took the drugs. Like, he took the drug, or did he? I don't even remember if he had anything to do with it or not, to be fair. But the worst comes to last, he is a rich kid. Rich kids are fine.
Vad gjorde du? Du kände att du ville gå och snacka med Ville direkt?
She didn't.
Jag tror inte att du fattar hur mycket jag ångrar att jag gjorde det jag gjorde.
You still did it. You
mitt fucking huvud, fattar du inte det?
go to therapy. You can probably afford it even with your...
Och be om vänta på den där jävla käftsmällen som kommer när jag minns dagen nu. Jag vet den kommer.
You shouldn't have done what you did. Like, I do think he is genuinely remorseful. I don't think it is just put on. But clearly some of that remorse comes from a place of, like, I'm gonna be punished for what I did and I'm scared, rather than, like, I genuinely regret it. Though I do think he did genuinely regret it. I think he was just being spiteful and desperate. But it's just... I don't feel sorry for him the way I could, given the context of what he did. It wasn't just like he spread a rumor. He leaked a sex tape of his friend and of his friend's kid brother, like, you know, because he was friends with the dead prince as well. Like, what he did was so unforgivable. I would never forgive him. Like, if we had to work together or whatever, I might ultimately in time, like, be on, like, pleasantries, like, you know, kind of that, oh, hi, I wouldn't be friends with him. Like, how dare he expect that just because he says sorry, well, I'm supposed to say it's all fine. Admittedly, this, like, vendetta of humiliating him and ruining his life isn't the best thing he's ever done. There is a small part of me, like I said, things that is finding it satisfying. Most of me is just very concerned about where Wilhelm's head is right now. But you don't get to say, be angry at Wilhelm for reacting, because what you did was unforgivable. And you're fucking lucky the Queen doesn't want a scandal. Because I suppose, to be honest, if they announced it was him or did anything to him, it would be pretty obvious that it was a genuine video. It's just heartbreaking on a lot of fronts. The front it's least heartbreaking on is August, because he did it. I do have sympathy for him about some of his, like, the situation he is in. I think a lot of these kids, as much as they are pampered, privileged, rich kids who will always land on their feet in terms of getting into a good school, having money, that doesn't mean they come from stable, loving environments. That doesn't mean they have that going for them. And we know he doesn't, but it's just, what he did was so far out of line. And for him to be like, I said sorry, why hasn't he forgiven me, is really bothering me. And if Sarah falls for it, it was your brother's life he ruined too, you know. She is used to sort of anxieties and panic attacks. Because he was having a bit of a panicked attack. Look, realistically, August, Wilhelm has shown he is going to undermine you every step he gets at school. So your last term isn't going to be the glorious golden summer you hoped it would be. So if you still want to stay at this school, just be prepared that Wilhelm is going to use his little sassy Prince vibe every time he can to undermine you, and worse. The royal court knows, but they clearly don't want a scandal, so they're not going to do anything huge in public. But you're probably not going to get all that many invitations and gifts, and I don't know what it's like to be part of the royal court because they shouldn't still exist in the 21st century, but hey, like, you're probably going to be quite low down on the pecking order and not a favoured, beloved member like you would have been if you just stayed being a friend. No one's going to hurt you because they can't. Go to therapy and change schools so Willem doesn't have to see you every day. But he's needed therapy long before the video. Sure, it's hard being a teenager, but he is literally the worst boy at this school. You know what he did to your brother. I really have been worried for a long time about Sarah losing herself to this place, and she seems to be doing it. Totally everyone at this school knows that sex tape was real. And it's heartbreaking in so many ways. They should be able to navigate this. Because this is difficult enough without that being out there. I still, like... The library is a very public place for this conversation, children. I know it's hard to be not private, but not public even, but... It hurts, Simon. I know you're hurting too.
Vi ska inte prata med varandra, eller? Inte för alltid kanske.
I mean, do you think you need time and you need to think about the reality of what you're getting into? Right now you're...
Fattar du inte att du har sårat mig?
I don't think he's let himself think about that, to be honest.
Jag kan inte vara nära dig.
But you haven't thought about how he's hurting either. They're both they've been quite wrapped up in how they're hurting more than thinking about the other one. And I know that they're both teenagers, so again, no hate for either of them. You know, he's struggling with the fact that one of his best friend and his brother's best friend or one of his closest friends betrayed him in that way. His mother's like, I'll just cover it up, who cares? Also, yeah, no, you're not allowed to be gay, fuck it. Like, I'm sorry, your entire life's gonna be you living a lie because that's what you have to do because that's how things are, and I'm not even gonna try and change them for your happiness, my child. I'm just gonna watch you suffer. Sorry, I have very strong feelings, and it makes me think about, I know throughout history there are various medieval and whatnot kings and queens that you can look at and go, you know, that they were well documented to have had a lot of lovers that were the same sex as them. Okay, it's mainly men, but like there are various English kings that I know were gay. But even modern days, when it shouldn't be the case, you kind of look and think, given that there are somehow still a lot of royal families rocking around, how can there not have been more gay members of them statistically? And that's very sad and heartbreaking. But I think I've yet to really see Simon grapple with the reality of not only what the situation dating them would be like. I think he did that a little bit when it was all over the papers, but you know, like grappling with the situation of what it's like to date someone in the royal family, the level of public scrutiny you get, the level of invasion of privacy, however right or wrong it is. I assume from what I've seen in the show, it's similar in Sweden to the way it is here. I mean, Meghan Markle is an example. She was not, obviously it was a straight relationship, but she was not white, and she did not come from the or their little mold of richest aristocracy. She came from America. She didn't want to do things by the way they were doing things, and the level of treatment she got. Now, I don't think she's a saint by any means. I don't think she and Harry are like the royal family in general. Like, I mean, but they are the better members of the royal family. But the way they were treated was abominable. So when you think of this situation, you've got someone from the lower class, gay. The prince is obviously also gay, but like the level of scrutiny and media attention and abuse that would get, which is heartbreaking, and it shouldn't be the case, but it will be the case, and so you have to go into it with your eyes open. And I also don't think we've seen Simone really grapple with what it's like to be Wilhelm. It's not just having money and power and a nice castle to live in. It's feeling isolated from your parents. It's being raised from the age for as long as you can remember, to smile for the cameras and to make sure you dress smartly and all of that side of things. It's being a member of the royal family is no picnic. It's one of the many reasons it should be abolished is what it will do to the mental health of the people within it. Even more so than it is for all the other kids at this school who have a similar version of it. The pressure he is under, the fact that his own mother told him, no, you can't be gay. I can't remember exactly what she said, whether she said something on the lines of like what the boy said at the party, like, well, you can have lovers, that's fine, but you can't publicly be gay or something because you're the crown prince. But I know it was basically like, yeah, it's fine, but you're the crown prince, so you can't be. I need to see Simon kind of thinking about him in that way. In the same way that I want to see Wilhelm thinking about what it's like for Simon to kind of have the person he loves deny that they're even together and that he's even gay and kind of publicly disown him. Like, the video is quite clearly of Simon, but he's saying, well, it's not me, I'm nothing to do with it. Like, he did kind of leave him hanging, and especially when he said, well, I'm not making the statement, and then he did. You know, you can understand why Simon is upset and how, like, maybe also he needs to start to think that if this relationship goes any further, is it going to be a secret in the shadows thing where he's the mistress kept away when no one can see them? Or is it going to be in the public eye, and what that would do to Simon's life and his family and everything? Now, I kind of need both of these kids to take a step back and really consider the wider picture. But they are also children in the middle of an impossible situation, and I'm stressed for them. But
Alltså vi kan dra om du vill.
Nej, han har sett oss. Så gå in nu.
I could not do this kind of karaoke. Karaoke I like doing with my friends is when you get like a room and you just all sing together.
Okay.
There is still a part of my brain that immediately goes to I mean, I don't think this guy's, given that he seems to already be, they already know him and he's related to Hilariska, however you say it. But there's also the fact they have to consider is that people are going to start maybe trying to get close to Simon to try and get the scoop and everything. This song feels very targeted, but it could just be because he fancies him. It's good to see him smiling. Unfortunately, I don't think Wilhelm has many people, if anyone in his life he can talk to other than Felice. And even that, they're not that close. I mean, they are close, but not as close. Not the same kind of close. I mean, I don't know if Simon would call it a date all the way just yet. August's so gonna tell him that it was Wilhelm, right? Sweetheart, what are you doing? He's drowning, that's what he's doing. Your son is hurting. Try being a mother for once. Fuck off. He called his mum, hoping for once. He is a teenager struggling, and she can't even be his mum for 5 seconds. He's a teenager going through a lot. Maybe be a parent for once, Queen. And where's the consort or whatever? Because at this point, his mental health is being shredded. He's not gonna... Nothing is gonna go well. He's gonna... You know, if he were to carry on the path the Queen wants, he'd become a miserable, bitter person, potentially. Or just utterly depressed. Or he'd do something he wouldn't be able to live to regret. But it just breaks my heart. The idea of this kind of monarch being like that. Now, I really wonder what the Swedish monarchy, because there is still a Swedish monarchy, like, they aren't making that up, think of this show. They're like, yeah, it's great. Or if they're like, if like the Swedish monarch is like, I love my children and I listen to them, what is this? But it's very in keeping with my understanding of the British royal family, and they've got like the firm, and you know, you do things by the book, and you do this and you do that, and you know, yeah. So Wilhelm still just absolutely breaks my heart because he doesn't have anyone to talk to. The closest person he has to talk to is Felice, but they weren't even all that close until very recently. If I remember rightly, they might have been closer when they were younger. I don't know, but they weren't that close until recently, largely because she was obsessed with him. Not because she actually was obsessed with him, but because her parents wanted her to make him fall in love with her and marry him. So he's so alone. I feel like in that moment, what he really needed, and of course what he needed, but what he wanted was for 5 seconds for his mum to say, "Hey, sweetheart, listen to me. Like, I'm so sorry about that. We'll talk about," like, to be a mum. But instead, it was all, "You're being hysterical." Oh, that word just made me just want to like go to Sweden and commit a coup. Which, admittedly, the real Swedish royal family would be like, "Why is there a random English girl being like, I'm committing a coup?" I'm sorry, I'm in a very weird mood because this show makes me emotional. Um, it's just really hard seeing how alone he is. And like at the moment, there is a small part of me that is still enjoying his kind of revenge against August, but at the same time, I am so worried because this could spiral. This kind of vendetta and this bitter lashing out at the person that hurt him could spiral and become a thing that he clings to too strongly, and he could lose himself to it. Now, I have faith that he is a good person and that's not going to happen. It might happen for a little bit, but I think he's young and he'll get through it. But it's the sort of thing where, especially someone born to such privilege and entitlement, someone who can basically get what he wants just by saying, "I'm the crown prince." As much as I know he just said he doesn't want to be the crown prince, but that kind of privilege and power, "I'm the prince," regardless, that won't go anywhere. Um, it could really make him become the worst kind of rich person, that bitter, entitled prince that he hasn't been. At the moment, it is only targeted at August. He is not targeting anyone else. There is a little bit of him kind of just expecting Simon to be there and to be like, "Okay, yeah, let's go back to how things were," but that's never going to happen. Things are never going to go back to how they were, given everything they've been through. They And there's nothing wrong with Simon saying, don't want to be a secret or whatever. I don't like, you hurt me and I can't just accept it. Let's go back to how things were. Like, for one thing, how things were was never going to last. But he's so isolated and alone. And for me, the thing that really got to me the most was the woman, when he was on the phone, ranting and raving and swearing about how he wasn't going to be king. She had this kind of little, like, teenagers look on her face, which could be partly because it's freaking awkward when the crown prince is having a little tantrum, which is how they're definitely going to see it, and you're sat there. But I mean, realistically, what you do if you're the queen of a country and you want to keep the monarchy, and your only heir comes to you and says, "I'm gay, I'm in love with a boy," you don't say, "No, it's not acceptable, you're the crown prince." Actually, you say, "Okay, my love, thank you for telling me I love you. Does the boy make you happy? And once you've established this, you start working out with people." All right, so let's say the crown prince wasn't going to be married to somebody with whom he could biologically produce children. What would we do then? Would adoption work? Would we want to have a surrogate? How would you pick the surrogate? I think I discussed this in previous seasons. It feels like I'm repeating myself. In that moment, you support your fucking child to the end of the universe, and you take advantage of all of the wonders of the 21st century that we live in, where he could adopt, he could use a surrogate. Admittedly, I would still want him to consent to having the kid, but like, if having the kid is a given, alternatively, if he does not want children, who is next in line? That person and their family can simply inherit down the line after he doesn't have kids. Sure, your grandchildren won't be on the throne, but who gives a fuck? Like, that is the correct response. And I would even forgive the queen if her initial response was that kind of like, "Well, I've been raised my whole life that you just get on and you do your duty, and you lost step off the lip, you've got to do your duty." And then with time and thought and evidence of her son spiraling, she was like, "Okay, look, what I said was actually really harsh and I'm really sorry for how I reacted when I first found out. Let's do that. Like, I'm gonna support you." That would be like the only way this woman can actually redeem herself, and she's running out of time. So he absolutely breaks my heart. And I do feel very sorry for Simon because he did get his heart broken, but in some ways, he's just got such a great support system that while my heart is still broken for him, it is less broken for him because there are people comforting him and giving him advice. And, ultimately, other than not having Wilhelm, his life hasn't been affected. Um, Obviously he's heartbroken, and I'm not minimizing that in any way, shape, or form. But I feel like, he's got friends, he's got a potential rebound. There is still that part of me that is suspicious. I'm like, is this Marcus guy secretly going to be trying to get him to get close, and then he'll spill, and then he can sell it to the tabloids? hopefully not, given that he's someone that has links to the school. That would probably be quite a risky thing to do because the school could cut ties. An interesting comment they made was about how Hilerska doesn't have as many applicants anymore, which is because monarchies are going out of fashion, and I guess like times are changing. These old traditions aren't going to last, and it's one of the things that makes it so heartbreaking to see the Queen clinging to it so fiercely when it's causing her son so much pain. Realistically, August should choose to do his senior year at a different school. Take him, if he's truly sorry, he should say, look, Wilhelm, I'm not going to make you look at me. I'm not going to make you be forced to spend time with me. I'm going to leave. Would that cost, do we know he was desperate to stay at Hilerska? Of course. But for his own selfish reasons, he's not going anywhere. He's staying. He still wants to have all the things he dreamt of having. He could go to some other fancy school. He could say, oh, you know, change of pace would be nice, and go somewhere else. He could do anything he wanted to. But instead, he's staying here. Now, I do admit, I think some of his guilt is very, very real. I do think once he did it, he realised he fucked up. I don't think that is a lie. I also think a lot of what he's feeling is the fear of the consequences because they haven't happened yet. Had they gone to the police, had that happened, had the Queen been like, yes, lock him up, he would feel less anxious because he'd know what was happening. But he knows, Wilhelm knows, he knows the Queen knows, he knows everyone important in his future knows. And, you know, the royal family were the ones who bailed him out of his school debt and everything. He was a beloved kind of extra member of the family. I don't know how closely he's related. I can't remember. I think they're cousins, but I don't know how distant or not. But, like, he was, you know, best friend of that one. He was looking out for this one. Like, he was a real member of the family. And he has thrown that away. But realistically, he has an elaborate estate that I still say he can sell. I know he's attached to it. He has that. He'll be able to, you know, find a good person to marry who's rich, whether they love each other or not, because that's what you do in those circumstances if need be. He'll be able to make a wonderful life for himself with or without the royal family of Sweden. It just won't be the life he expected, and it's his own fault. So yes, like if I struggle with feeling sorry for someone for when they're worried about the consequences of their actions, when their actions were filming, then leaking a sex tape of the underage friend of his family who has done lots for him, who's also his dead best friend's brother, and which outs him. Like, just the level of hell knows stack up. And so then, like, he having a panic attack, and there's that instinctive part of me that wants to feel sorry for him, and then I'm like, yeah, but I want to get him to a therapist. Maybe if he confesses what he did, I'll forgive him. I mean, I wouldn't forgive him, but, like, you could start moving on from it. I feel like at this point it's almost giving I'm a spoilt rich boy who's always got away with everything, and fuck, I've just realised I've gone too far and I can't get away with this one. I can't cope with this. The worst thing this show is doing right now is the suggestion that Sarah and August might become a thing. Honestly, Sarah, what are you doing? I know she's neurodivergent. Did she say she has Asperger's, if I remember rightly? But I know she's neurodivergent, so I know that she doesn't necessarily see the world through the same lens as all of her colleagues and her friends and people watching the show. But there are still lines you don't cross. One of them is the guy that ruined your brother's life and released a sex tape. I do worry about Sarah. I've been worried since season 1 about Sarah because she is so desperate to fit in at this school. I still criticise the mother's decision to send them there. Maybe it was the only other school close to where they lived, but I get wanting to remove your child from a school where she was being bullied. But in what universe would be sending her to the super elite school? She was more likely to get bullied there than she was at her old school. I mean, obviously her old school, she had awful people at it that bullied her. But we're watching her lose herself to this dream of being like these pampered, rich, privileged people. Now, yes, admittedly, the group of girls she's friends with, at least a couple of them do seem like Felice seems alright given everything, as does her other friend whose name I don't remember. But she doesn't have the money like they do. She's never going to fit in like them. She's going to have, like, I mean, in some ways it might be good for her, the kind of living away from home, because she'll have to adjust to someone else's room and someone else's stuff in her room and things not being how she likes them, and either realise she cannot cope with that and go back home, which is totally valid, or realise she can and adjust to it. but it's this drive to be just like them when they are only like a lot of what they got is just because they happen to be born to people with money. It doesn't make them better than her. I really worry about the direction she's taking and what she's doing, and that she's going to lose herself. And I think August is a huge part of that. Because if there was a bigger red flag than filmed and released a sex tape of your brother, I don't know what there is. Stressed me out. Felice being a friend to Wilhelm was great, and also standing up to her mother, also great. Want to see more of that. It was a very good episode. I'm very stressed about these kids. I'm like, you know, I don't want August to have like a mental breakdown of any kind or keep having panic attacks or anything. But at the same time, it's like you need to face the consequences of what you've done. And I know that's a new a new thing for you to contemplate. That's not what I was trying to say, but that's basically the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm being too harsh on him. I don't know. Very good first episode. It's so weird because in some ways I feel like not that much happened in this episode, but at the same time so much happened in this episode. Thank you so much to my lovely patron for sponsoring this, and thank you for watching.